just when you thought it was safe. Curriculum changed, PCP has gone and got a court case. It's proof for the deniers, revealing all the liars. UNESCO co-conspirers, stealing away your rights as a parent, a guardian. Remove your right to disagree. Chosen from the age of 3, exposing kids to CSE. Change the name to RSE, it's mirrored inequality. Legally made it mandatory, dictated by the GOV.
Hello everyone, how are you all doing? Tonight is our first podcast back in a very, very long time. So tonight joined by myself and Joan. And for those who don't know, I am Kim, Chair of Public Child Protection Wales. We are a grassroots organisation set up off the back of campaigning against RSE. We were proactive in that fight. We took the Welsh Government to court. We have proven this new sex education is for the whole of the UK. It's global, with a view for legislative changes, and the Welsh Government successfully argued that we in the UK have no parental rights. So that was pretty much what happened in our court case. That has not deterred us. We are still fighting on. So we travel around the country delivering presentations, we have demonstrations, we speak in conferences, and most recently we have written, designed and delivered our very first training package. So, and that's institutional child sex abuse awareness training, and we are in the process of trying to get that accredited right now. So as I've said, tonight you're joined by myself, Kim and Joan. And for our first podcast back, we're going to be discussing mixed toilets in schools. So it's been quite an interesting topic. Last week, we put out a question on our Facebook asking everybody's opinions, if they agree or if they don't agree. And I think in overwhelming numbers, people disagree. I have noticed these posts have gone off over community hubs and community groups and things like that, and people are massively against this. And the reason why this has come to our attention now is because we were contacted about a week and a half ago. It appears as though the children are going back to school, and this has been going on now for a couple of years. Children are going back to school after a term break, and the toilets, they now got these gender neutral toilets. I haven't been in the school, so I can't say what these toilets look like. Some people are saying they are open spaces now with girls on one side, boys on the other, and the wash area in the middle. Some people are saying that the toilets, actually the individual toilets, are now coming out on the corridors. And we've seen something like this coming out in Cardiff new bus station as well. So it's quite interesting what's going on around the place. We did look into a little bit ourselves. We've had a look at the legalities surrounding this, and to be fair, that's quite a confusing front on its own. So have you got anything to say at this stage, Joan?
Well, the only thing I've got to say is that legalities or otherwise, it just seems to be a matter of common sense and dignity for both sexes.
Well, this is it. Now, I am mostly concerned, before we go into what people really think and, what's out there, I am mostly concerned, like I'm a parent of an additional needs child. So I understand, that side of it, like my own son had a separate changing room from everybody else, So I understand that side of it. And I also got a child who is fine changing in front of his peers. But that said, the peers were always male as well. So I also have a friend who her little girl didn't have additional needs. She was very sociable. You would think that these toilet issues maybe wouldn't be a problem for her, but she did develop health issues from it. She would not go to the toilet in school, full stop. And I mentioned about my younger boy was okay changing and things in front of people. But we've had a discussion about this recently. And also one of our colleagues, Joan, so we've got a 40-year-old woman as well who are toilet shy. You know, we take the mick, you know, because they're older people. But this is actually a serious thing. People in general are toilet shy. You know, they don't like to go to the toilet if there's somebody outside or if they think somebody can hear. And that in itself causes health issues, you know, and this has always been a problem. I've always been aware of parents concerned that their children are not toileting at school. So
I
just
agree.
that is problematic.
Yeah, and I've also experienced with my own children. Um, they all hated using the toilet at school, and they would all hold it in, but one in particular. And that used to worry me because of constipation issues, etc. You know, and that is before these days of unisex toilets. So how much worse is that problem now? I've also heard of girls holding it in, and not wanting to go at all, and not being able to get access a drink either, and getting UTIs. That has been in the news.
Well, there has been a lot of stuff in the news regarding toilets. I was approached myself last year. I think it was the start of the last academic year, where the children went back to school in a local school where I'm from, and there was CCTV in the toilets. And the CCTV could actually see over the tops of the cubicles, you know, because the doors didn't come all the way up. And I do believe the children there, the females that protest, and they got them removed pretty quick. I've also heard where they are now putting bars on the toilets, where the children can't access toilets within certain time frame. So, you know, what we discuss in here is a basic human need.
I think that bars on the toilet is a knock-on effect to the fact that these are open spaces now and can be accessed by both sexes, because we wouldn't know how many events there might have been in schools, and maybe the school has been aware that this has been an issue, and they put the bars on themselves in order to preempt any more behavior like that. So, you know, the bars on the toilets probably wouldn't have come about if not for the fact that those toilets were mixed sex in the first place.
Well, this is it. What we also know about toilets in general, we see a lot of sex assaults in toilets in
Yes.
general. In general, you know, we're talking pubs, train stations, bus stations, Hyde Park. I was speaking to you earlier on, Joan, about my own son. We were in Hyde Park. We used to go to London every New Year. And he had got to about age 10. And we had a big, massive row over him wanting to use the male toilets. And it was heaving outside Hyde Park, these toilets. And then I later discovered, after coming home, it was on Crime Watch, that a little 6-year-old had actually been raped in toilets in Hyde Park. This was a little boy. His mother and father were just feet away from him. And the aftermath of that, he would draw monsters on himself. So, you know, that always sticks in my mind as well. We've seen sexual assaults taking place in supermarket toilets. You know, this is, and even on the train, Joan, you said earlier on that, you know, a 13-year-old was raped on a train. So we know that public toilets have always been an area of concern. You know, people either go in there to do private business, you know, go into the toilet. Obviously, that's private. But then you've got people who go in there to do things out of the way of the public eye, whether that's committed crime or sexual acts themselves, you know, consensual. You know, toilets have always been a place where that should be safe, really. And there's always been a level of exploitation that happens in toilets. Would you agree?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Well, I can corroborate that entirely, because my own daughter was almost a victim of a sexual crime in the school in London she was at. And that was over 40 years ago, that some teenage boy had hopped over the railings, and it was a Victorian school, the toilets were outside, and obviously not supervised throughout the school day. So he actually got into the toilet while my daughter was there. Luckily, nothing bad transpired, but it was obvious that he wanted to commit a sexual act on her. And it
So
was reported to the police.
was this boy an outsider from the school?
Yes,
Was he part of the school?
This was a primary school, and he
What?
was a teenage boy.
So we know these things go on. We know there are health concerns behind this. And now let's bring it up to, current day political debate here. There is a concern around the invasion of women's spaces as well.
Absolutely, and quite rightly, because I think it's crazy we ever
so
arrived
this,
in that position.
Well, this is it. We do have people out there just identifying willy-nilly as the opposite sex just when they feel like. And, when people are putting up the red carpet. And like we've already discussed, women, children in general, male or female children, they do have toilet issues, they're toilet shy. We've just mentioned about teenagers and 40-year-old adults being toilet shy. We've mentioned the health issues that comes off the back of that. And we've got children going back to school, and they clearly are disturbed by this. So, and the arguments that I'm hearing are very, very weak. So there's somebody tonight now that's just commented saying, just like the toilets at our home, and I think that's a very weak argument. We've tried to look at the legislation, and even that in itself is conflicting. So I did a simple Google search just before this podcast, looking at the regulations in the UK. And the first thing that comes up, it says this: separate toilets for older children. Schools must provide separate toilet facilities for boys and girls who are 8 years or older, unless the toilet is for one pupil at a time and can be secured from the inside. So that in itself conflicts itself, because what's the interpretation of that? You can get different interpretations from that. Everybody goes into a single toilet, one at a time. So that in itself is conflicting. Unisex toilets can be provided for children under 8, and for children over 8, as long as separate toilets for each gender are also available. So again, it's under 8's okay, but it's also okay for over 8. It's not saying yes or no. It should be this way, then that way. It's contradicting himself all the way through. Disabled toilets can be unisex for any age. We're all aware disabled toilets have always been unisex. It's always been a singular toilet, and you will get the disabled toilet at the end of the females' cubicles, but that is as far as it goes. It's those are the only unisex toilets we really have, and 9 times out of 10 you have to go and get a key for those toilets. So that essentially is monitoring each person that goes into that toilet. It is, the likelihood of there being a rush or people creeping in or people already lying in wait, those things then are eliminated through that process.
I agree. And would you be reading from the new legislation that's coming out about public buildings for England?
No, so I'm now moving on to that. So what I just read out was a simple Google search, and this is what I'm going to read out here, because some people will say the law has changed. Understanding the new single-sex toilet law in England. Okay, so that's what I'm reading now, right? So, and I'm just going to go to the end, because I think this is quite telling as well. So the key requirements of this legislation. The new legislation mandates that new non-residential buildings, such as restaurants, shopping centres, and offices, must have, that's must, which is a legal term, not may or should, must have separate male and female toilets. Where space allows, These buildings can also include universal toilets, self-contained rooms with a toilet and a sink for individual use. If there is insufficient space for both single-sex and universal toilets, only the latter may be provided.
Because this was by public consultation as well, wasn't it, Kim? And
Yes.
over 80% actually wanted to keep single-sex toilets. And if some of their questions hadn't have been ambiguous, which they were apparently, it might have even, the percentage might even have gone up from that. So it's an overwhelming response.
Yes, but even I'm going to continue reading because that's going to be the last bit I read there, the government's rationale.
Right.
I found that quite contradictory as well. So exemption. So we want exemptions at the moment. Certain facilities are exempt from the new regulations. These include residential care homes, ensuite facilities in individual rooms for residential purposes, cells in custodial facilities, premises mainly used for early years provision, and schools. Existing buildings will not be affected by this change. And then we go on to the government's rationale, what Joan just mentioned now about the 81%. So the government's decision is grounded in feedback from the consultation, where 81% of respondents supported single-sex toilet facilities, and 82% agreed with the provision of universal toilets where space allows. And then it goes on to say, the government argues that gender-neutral facilities have led to longer queues, decreased choice, and reduced privacy and dignity. Now, I do agree to that final statement. It does reduce privacy and dignity. You know, and that is a big point here. So it doesn't look like the government are actually doing anything at all about it. It looks like in one breath they are, you know, they are saying, yes, we should have single-sex toilets, but universal as well.
Well, there's nothing new about that, is there, Kim? Because
and you know, even where they say where you can't, so they go on to say you should have single-sex toilets. If you've got space, you can have universal. If you haven't got space for single and universal, the latter should apply. Well, the latter is universal.
Was it? I got the feeling that single-sex toilets were to come first in every situation.
No, this I'll read it to you again. No, they've twisted it. So is this sex? Which one was it? This one. So this is it. If there is insufficient space, go back. Where space allows, these buildings can also include universal toilets. Here it is, sorry. If there is insufficient space for both single-sex and universal toilets, only the latter may be provided. Well, the latter is universal.
Sorry, yes. Yeah, of course.
So, you know, so they are not on anyone's side.
No,
they are pretending to be on people's side. In one breath, they're giving it, and then there's a comma, and they're taking it straight back.
Yes, they're not actually marking it out as a road ahead, like as a principle. They're just using the subject of buildings and pussyfooting, and also existing buildings they're not going to require for them to change back. So it's not about principle, it's about cosmetics.
I think they've left it open to interpretation. So they are saying there must be single-sex toilets, male and female. And then when there's no room for male and female, the latter may be provided. So is that a get-out clause? Is that a loophole? What is actually going on here? And then they exempt early years and schools. But, in the regulations, the UK regulations, children over the age of 8 should have separate toilets. So I think this should be dealt with once and for all, because what we need to understand here is cases usually go on public interest. We have enough, just from the few posts that we've put on social media over the last week, there is more than enough to show the public do not want universal toilets. They don't want men anywhere near, women struggle to toilet next to women. Men struggle to toilet next to men, and that's a given thing. So why do we want to add to that? Why do we want to magnify that anxiety? People are going to get caught short. People are going to have bladder issues, bowel issues. We are going to see health concerns, mental health concerns with the assaults that's taking place. And I was also contacted tonight. There's a school close to me. They've gone back to school to these gender neutral toilets, and children are performing sexual activities on them within these toilets. This is local to me.
Doesn't surprise me. I mean, I don't think anyone needed a crystal ball. I remember when I was in junior school, and I'd be about 8 years old. So I was born in 1951, right? So you're talking about 1959. I remember trying to intervene on behalf of a little girl, that was being dragged around the playground by the boys, by her feet, simply because she had, now you won't know anything about Airtex, the fabric Airtex, but it was a certain cotton fabric that had tiny little perforations in it. So she was wearing Airtex knickers. And they wanted to see her Airtex knickers.
And that was back then.
And that was back then. And those boys are probably grown up to be upright citizens, That doesn't mean to say that they were totally perverted. It's just something in human, it's a curiosity.
Well,
but I thought they were taking it too far, and that's why I intervened. Because she wasn't laughing.
No. Well, there was, funny enough, there was a comment or similar to that nature on, I think it was My Steak Hub, where a gentleman had said, and he's speaking from a male perspective, how boys fool around in toilets. Don't forget now, we do have devices, cameras, and I used to be a fool myself in the toilets with the girls. We've gone to festivals, we've stopped in services, and I have fooled around in the toilets myself. But that was in the company of my own friends, in that small group. So I do understand that people play up, people mess around, and it was just fortunate for me that I was old enough and that I could do that with the people I was with, But like you said, sometimes it's brought on and people are shy. They are embarrassed, It's not very pleasant for them. And especially for girls, if they're on their period, Joan. That's, I think people are forgetting here that this is a time in a girl's life and a place where she is going to start her period.
Yes, and the thing is, Kim, a girl doesn't know how heavy her menstrual flow is going to be. Some months it might be light, others it might be heavy. Sometimes the accidents happen and you need that personal area in order to sort them out. Your hands might get stained by blood. Do you really want to be coming out into a public space looking like that?
And that's what, I'm glad you've mentioned that, because that's what a lot of people are saying. But they come out in a public space to wash. Nobody wants to wash in a public space, especially if there's been, like you said, a spillage or an accident. We people need that time, space, and privacy. So I'm just going to read some. First of all, I'll read a few comments from Facebook, and then we'll have a look at the comments here, because I now have glasses and I can do this thing. Actually, I can put the comments up on the screen. I forgot about that. So we got somebody here saying the world has gone mad, mixed toilets. The alleged abuse of our beautiful children continues, fuming. No, absolutely not acceptable. No, never. A couple of years ago, they wanted to do this at my daughter's school. I put a post on their Facebook page asking if I set up a petition, would parents sign it? The response was tremendous. Needless to say, the next day, the head had changed their mind. You need to get the other parents on side. There's somebody else here. Disapprove. My daughter, along with many of her girlfriends, used to feel awkward using these toilets, especially in that time of the month. They would feel self-conscious about boys hearing the sound of them opening the sanitary products. And whilst, yes, this is completely normal and nothing to be ashamed of, kids can be cruel. Because of this, my daughter stopped using the toilets altogether in school and would hold on until she got home. If they want gender-neutral toilets, then add some on the premises, but don't take the choice away from male and females wanting privacy. And obviously, there's a lot of not very nice things said about the government. So what are we saying here? We got. I remember the dinner ladies being the toilet monitors. I remember the dinner ladies being the toilet monitors as well, Emma. I do. What's this one here? Let's have a look. So we got no need for mixed toilets. Men's have urinals. Girls and women don't want or need to see Willie's peeing everywhere or the grunting smells. That's a bit, well, that's exactly it. Girls have cubicles, privacy, changing underwear, sandy products, and incontinence wear. Why would any man need to be involved or interested in any of that? Keep them separate, no need to be mixed at all. And then on YouTube, we got no room, feeble excuse, get some outdoor portaloos. You know, there is absolutely nobody I know is on side. I have had, like I said, I've had two people suddenly appear now from nowhere. Jade, of course, there's a loophole for them. It's not worth the paper it's written on. And I don't think, I have to agree with you there, Jade. We don't think this is worth the paper it's written on. I did actually text a lawyer tonight. I haven't had a response from them. I think they're probably very busy. I text them completely out of the blue. So what I think we need to do here, we need to act. You know, we need to act on this. I do know there was a school in North Wales. So this is why we are doing this podcast, by the way, because we were contacted by somebody up in North Wales. Let me try and find that now. And they've gone back to school. Again, no warning with these toilets. So they have got a petition as well. Llanfyllin High School, and that's in North Wales. This is for age years 7 to 11. Floor to ceiling, closed cubicles, but open planned shared wash basins. But the school have since backtracked with pressure from the parents and opened the old toilets up for choice. So it looks like they are building these facilities within, again, it's different all over the UK, okay? So every school is different. But it does look like they're building these facilities away from the original toilets in the school. And what we need to get on top of it now, because the last thing we want is them creating new space for toilets in the old schools and then taking out the drainage facilities from the old toilets. We don't want to lose the old toilets. We don't want them to go. So if they've still got the old toilets there, we need to hold on to those. The new buildings, which they have been building quite a while now, the new super schools, we need to put a stop to them having these gender neutral toilets. There's no question that people need privacy. There's no question that crimes are committed, health concerns can be developed from this. So we as a country have to do something about it. There's no two ways. So we've seen where parents have come together. There's a comment on my Facebook where they like I've just read, he posted on the school group on Facebook, and they managed to control and contain it there. That school has kind of backtracked, but don't forget they've already built these facilities, they've already spent money, and they are pleading poverty. with regards to funding. So this money is being spent, where it could be spent on the children's education anyway, preferably not RSE. But I think we need to do something about this. And I don't know if that's going to be in the form of a petition or whether we actually take this to court. Something needs to be solid and something needs to be universal, and we are not talking the toilets. Yeah, there's this, look, see, you're trying to jump on the inclusive gravy train, the backtracking when parents are finding out. There's also grants for them to make these adjustments. I wonder where these grants are coming from. Any idea where they're coming from, Jade? So that's interesting. There's grants available. So there's grants available for these toilets, but you, 1 in 5 parents out there, fighting for one-to-one support for your child. There's no funding for that. But there's funding for these toilets.
I know.
So,
when you think about it, Kim, it's absolutely crazy the percentage of trans children that actually exist. Well, that term is a non-starter. There is no such thing as a trans child.
no.
But how many people are we catering for by stripping the dignity of everyone else?
Exactly. This is what I mean. Now this says, and like what did Claire say there? She said, toilets are a dangerous place for children at school. Toilets are a dangerous place for children anywhere. Children on their own in toilets, they are dangerous places, and historically they've been dangerous places. Oh, there we are. This one looks okay. Here, there's a comment coming from YouTube. The toilets at my university were unisex. They were like individual rooms, walls from floor to ceiling. Same with the doors. Each little room had its own individual sink and bins for sanitary products. Now that's catered more to people's needs. So and that is catering for people's needs if they've got their full privacy. Because that looks the same way as the disabled toilets do. In the shopping centre, they've got their own little sink in there as well. So they are there to support the needs of the disabled. So nobody is arguing against supporting the needs of anyone. We are concerned with these invasion of private spaces. And let's be honest here, people think, it's fine because it's just children. This is something that's happening globally, and it's happening with all age groups. Let's be honest. Nobody's got any privacy. It's like we don't have a right to privacy anymore. So we need to do something about it. We need to, like I said, I was just saying now, I did text a solicitor earlier just to ask for a little bit of, just to see if they had time to give an opinion. They haven't got back to me, so I'm assuming they're very, very busy. But that would be something I'd be interested in looking into, the legalities around that. Possibly a petition would be good. A petition would be fantastic. And I think we would really get the numbers on a petition, especially, in Wales, because we only need 10,000 signatures. But the truth is this, the law is flawed. There is no proper legislation there because it's misleading. We must have these single-sex toilets unless you've got a really good solicitor who can, or if you've got money for a solicitor who can argue the interpretation in court, then all well and good. But as it is now, it's left open and we need something solid. So I don't really know where to go from here, but we do need to look at addressing this problem. The good thing is courts and things like that usually go in public interest, but cases of this kind, I'm not saying this kind with toilets, but you know what I'm saying, cases that go against the narrative don't tend to have any publicity, and that's why they don't get anywhere. But I think this whole toilet issue might be a little bit different. I think this toilet issue is overstepping the mark, especially because, like with that new legislation, George, England, they are putting out a consultation. But, 81% of people want the single-sex toilets, and then there's 82% of people who are open to the universal toilets being an addition. But the open universal toilets, anybody reading those regulations, are the preferred choice from those regulations. And people who don't know the interpretation, the different words between must and may, they're going to think that they have to have these universal toilets. So this is something we're going to have to work on. I really don't know. Peru has banned it and said it's. Yes, I can see what you're talking about there. I thought you were talking about the toilets, Anne. So so we need to come to some kind of thing on this, guys. We need a solution. If anyone has any ideas how we can address this moving forward, whether it's going to be a petition, whether it can be class action, a court case against the government, whether that is Welsh government or UK government, it makes no difference. We need to create case law out of this. We need to get this black and white, an interpretation that every single person out there can understand. So, because otherwise, somebody reading that doesn't understand the difference in the power of the words, they're going to believe that they must build the universal toilets when the universal toilets may be a preferred choice. Can you see the difference there? So that's what we need to be very careful of, because once these universal toilets are all built and nobody's got money to change them for the single-sex toilets, we're screwed, aren't we? We're doomed at that point. So we need to prevent that. We need to think long and hard about how to take this thing forward. So what I propose is I'm going to wait to hear back from this lawyer. If anybody out there has any ideas, you can email us at admin@publicchildprotectionwales.org, or you can message us through the website www.publicchildprotectionwales.org, and we will do something to address this. If anybody wants to take this challenge on themselves, put things out through our platform, out through our website, we would be open to that. For us, it's probably easier to support somebody else in action than to action it ourselves, So if anybody out there wants to be a volunteer on this front, you've got our full support and commitment. So I think that brings us pretty much, Joan, to the end of that discussion on the toilets, unless you've got something to add.
Yeah, I would just think that you would have thought that by now, because there have been so many incidents. For example, in Essex, there was a boy last year. You didn't mention that, did you, Kim?
What's that?
Who committed 3 serious offences against girls in a school.
No, we didn't mention that. Go on, John, you can talk about it.
This has happened. And Miriam Cates has been standing up in Parliament and talking about things like that. And one of the things that is absent in these schools is an impact assessment report. Now, surely, if there are bad consequences coming from this, even if it's only a child that's, well, I say only, that is really bad. Child that's holding in all day, that's quite shocking. But I'm not talking about sexual abuse here. I'm talking about physical abuse that's happening because of this situation, which is self-inflicted. Now, if this is happening to any child, surely the parent should have a right to approach the school and ask if an impact assessment is being carried out. And if it hasn't, then I don't know what the consequences of that would be for the school. But there should be some.
And you've just opened up an idea in my head, Joan, because you are talking about children who have been harmed through this policy. And one thing that we keep finding in our court cases and our tribunals where we try to prevent harm, the court keep coming back to us and saying, but nobody has been harmed. They are not looking for prevention. So if there's anybody out there, your child has developed health issues, they're withholding, going to the toilet, they've been assaulted physically, whatever's gone on in those toilets. If you do have a case, if you do have a child who has been harmed by this, then please get in touch, because we can point you in the direction of international human rights barristers. Your child will get legal aid. The courts are only interested after the fact after there has been harm. So if anybody out there is in a situation like this, where there has been harm to your child or a child you know, seriously consider coming forward and taking action, because that is what the court is looking for, and that is one thing we've been lacking on our fights. We are trying to prevent harm. The courts are only interested in actual harm. So if you are out there and you fit this description and you are ready for a fight and you want to make a difference, again, get in touch. You can contact us through the website, www.publicchildprotectionwales.org, or you can email us at admin@publicchildprotectionwales.org. Anything else, Joe?
No, I think we've said as much as we can for now in a short space of time.
We have. So we are not going to let this matter drop. We will have a repeat program on this. Like I said, I've sent a text to a solicitor. We'll do a little bit of digging around. We will revisit this topic in a few weeks. This podcast is going out now. We don't know how many people are watching who do not comment, who will pluck up the courage to get in touch. That does happen. So let's hope that this gets us to a positive place. And we're going to do another podcast next week. Each week, we're going to be putting out a topic or a question or an issue to debate. And then we'll leave that post running for a week, and then we'll discuss it in the following week. So I do think next week's discussion might actually be around the topic of correct terminology, or it's going to be on the home education, because we do have a home education demonstration on the 2nd of October, where a family here in Wales is being taken to court because they haven't provided evidence of this child's work. So we will put out a separate video on that, explaining more about that. But as it stands now, I'm not sure whether next week's show will be on the court case or whether it's going to be on correct terminology. Most likely it's going to be on correct terminology. So I hope we've got lots of viewers for that one, because it's going to be very interesting. I know the comments are going to be mixed. I know the public are going to be debating like mad, especially the ones safeguard trained. And I think that's a really important show for us to have, to put this thing to bed once and for all. What's your thoughts on that, John?
That sounds quite exciting to me, I have to say.
Yeah, we've been sitting on this now for a year. I shared a memory on Facebook today, and my memories of the last few days have been where I was really going after the NSPCC. So I was coming to the end of my battle there, I think. So yeah, I do think that's going to be a good topic for us to address. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for your support for our first show back. Apologies that we haven't been very active. My fault. And also, I didn't top up the phone. I didn't realize that we'd lost our existing number, which meant that was the reason why I wasn't accessing the messages. But I have since rectified that issue, and fingers crossed I'll be a better person moving forward, and we'll get these shows out regular, we'll get the shares out regular, and I'll be able to liaise properly with people in Messenger. So thank you all for watching. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you to Joan for being my co-host. And we'll see you all next week, guys. Thank you very much.
Just when you thought it was safe, curriculum changed. PCP has gone and got a court case. It's proof for the deniers, revealing all the liars. UNESCO co-conspirers, stealing away your rights as a parent, a guardian. Remove your right to disagree. Chosen from the age of 3, exposing kids to CSE. Change the name to RSE, it's mirrored inequality. Legally made it mandatory, dictated by the GOV.